Few faces are as instantly recognizable, or as polarizing, as Ernesto Che Guevara's. His image has become synonymous with revolution, plastered on posters, t-shirts, and flags across the globe. But behind the iconic image lies a complex and often contradictory figure, a man whose actions continue to spark fierce debate and passionate opinions. His image, framed by wild hair and a starred beret, a symbol of defiance and unwavering commitment, is a global symbol of rebellion and social justice for some, a beacon of hope for those fighting against oppression and inequality. He represents the unwavering pursuit of a better world, a world free from exploitation and injustice, and ruthless violence for others. To them, he is a symbol of totalitarianism, a ruthless executioner who suppressed dissent and imposed his ideology through force. His legacy is stained with the blood of those who opposed him. To admirers, he's a martyr for the oppressed, a selfless idealist who sacrificed everything for the liberation of the downtrodden. They see him as a champion of the poor and marginalized, a voice for the voiceless. To critics, a dogmatic enforcer responsible for suffering and authoritarianism. They argue that his methods were brutal, and his vision ultimately led to the suppression of individual freedoms and the establishment of a repressive regime. This paradox is the heart of Che's legacy, a complex tapestry of idealism and brutality, of liberation and oppression. He embodies the inherent contradictions of revolution itself. How did a young Argentine doctor, driven by a desire to alleviate suffering, become both a hero and a villain in the story of revolution? What events shaped his worldview and led him down such a controversial path? To understand the myth, we must uncover the man, separating the romanticized image from the historical reality. We need to examine his motivations, his actions, and the consequences of his choices. Tracing his journey from Buenos Aires, where he was born into a middle-class family and initially pursued a career in medicine, to the jungles of Cuba and beyond, where he became a key figure in the Cuban Revolution and a symbol of revolutionary movements worldwide. This is the story of Che Guevara, a man who challenged the status quo and left an indelible mark on the 20th century, whose life and death still force us to confront the uncomfortable questions of revolution, the cost of change, the nature of power, and the enduring struggle for a more just world. His story continues to resonate today, sparking debate and inspiring action in a world still grappling with inequality and oppression. Ernesto Guevara was born in 1928 in Argentina into a privileged but unconventional family. Chronic asthma forged his willpower and disregard for comfort, traits that would define him as a revolutionary. Surrounded by books, he became a voracious reader and a restless thinker, questioning the world's injustices. The turning point came in 1952, when a motorcycle journey across South America exposed him to poverty and exploitation. Witnessing suffering firsthand, he concluded that only radical revolution, not medicine, could cure society's ills. In Peru, shaking hands with leprosy patients symbolized his growing solidarity with the marginalized. The young medical student Ernesto was gone. In his place, Che, the revolutionary, was born. After earning his medical degree, Guevara's travels radicalized him further, especially witnessing the US-backed coup in Guatemala. Disillusioned with peaceful reform, he fled to Mexico, where he met Fidel Castro, a meeting that changed history. Che joined Castro's plan to overthrow Cuba's Batista, becoming the only non-Cuban in the group. He trained as a soldier, no longer just a theorist, but a committed combatant. In 1956, 82 revolutionaries set sail on the Granma. Disaster struck as they landed in the wrong place and were ambushed. Most were killed, but Che survived, forced to choose between medicine and ammunition. He chose the latter. The doctor had become a fighter. The revolution was underway. Only a handful survived the Granma landing, regrouping in Cuba's Sierra Maestra mountains. Che quickly proved himself. Brave, disciplined, and a natural leader, soon promoted to Comandante. He enforced strict discipline, sometimes ruthlessly, and became Castro's key strategist. Beyond fighting, he organized workshops, field hospitals, and a newspaper, understanding that winning hearts and minds was as vital as military victory. He insisted on respect for peasants, building crucial local support. In 1958, Batista's massive offensive failed. Che's guerrillas outmaneuvered government troops. The decisive victory at Santa Clara shattered Batista's regime. On January 1, 1959, the revolutionaries triumphed. With the triumph of the revolution, Che Guevara, the iconic guerrilla leader, transitioned into a prominent figure within the newly formed Cuban government. His charisma and unwavering dedication had made him a symbol of hope and change for many. He assumed powerful roles in Cuba's new government, becoming a key architect of its socialist policies. He was entrusted with significant responsibilities, tasked with shaping the nation's future in the aftermath of the revolution. His influence extended to various sectors, reflecting the immense faith placed in his leadership. As commander of La Cabana prison, a fortress that had once symbolized oppression under the Batista regime, Che was now responsible for overseeing the detention of those deemed enemies of the revolution. In this role, he oversaw revolutionary tribunals where individuals accused of counter-revolutionary activities were tried. These tribunals resulted in hundreds of executions, a stark and controversial aspect of Che's legacy. The swift and often unforgiving justice meted out during this period remains a subject of intense debate. These actions were seen by some as a necessary means of consolidating the revolution and ensuring justice for the victims of the previous regime. However, others viewed them as acts of brutality, a betrayal of the revolution's ideals, and a descent into authoritarianism. The moral implications of these executions continue to be debated and analyzed. Beyond his role in La Cabana, Che spearheaded sweeping economic reforms, fundamentally altering Cuba's economic landscape. He led the nationalization of industries, bringing key sectors under state control. He was also a passionate champion of agrarian reform, seeking to redistribute land to the peasants and break the power of large landowners. This initiative aimed to create a more equitable society and empower the rural population. At the heart of Che's vision was the concept of a new man, a socialist ideal where individuals were motivated by moral duty and collective good, rather than material self-interest. He believed that fostering this new consciousness was essential for building a truly socialist society. To cultivate this new man, Che promoted voluntary labor, encouraging citizens to contribute their time and effort to collective projects. He also emphasized socialist ideals through education and propaganda, aiming to instill a sense of revolutionary consciousness in the Cuban population. However, Che's ambitious economic policies, while driven by noble intentions, ultimately led to unintended consequences. Shortages of essential goods became widespread, and economic inefficiency plagued various sectors. These economic challenges deepened Cuba's dependence on the Soviet Union, as the island nation increasingly relied on Soviet aid to sustain its economy. This reliance would have significant implications for Cuba's future. Che's unwavering idealism often clashed with the harsh realities of governing and managing a complex economy. His remarkable brilliance as a guerrilla commander and revolutionary strategist did not necessarily translate into success in the realm of economic management. The skills that had served him so well in the mountains proved less effective in the corridors of power. Despite these economic challenges, Che played a key role in launching a highly successful literacy campaign, which dramatically reduced illiteracy rates across the island. However, his tenure as an administrator in various government posts was largely viewed as a failure, marked by bureaucratic inefficiencies and a lack of practical solutions. Che's unwavering commitment to his rigid ideology often blinded him to pragmatic solutions and alternative approaches, hindering his ability to adapt to changing circumstances and address the complex challenges facing the Cuban economy. Che's influence spread beyond Cuba as he became a global ambassador for revolution. His fiery speeches at the UN denounced imperialism and inspired leftist movements worldwide. He promoted his FOCO theory, that small guerrilla bands could spark popular uprisings anywhere. His call for 2-3 many Vietnams challenged both the West and the Soviet Union, but alienated moderates and drew criticism for encouraging violence. Che's uncompromising stance made him a symbol of defiance, but also a divisive figure. His vision inspired many, but often overlooked the complexities of local struggles. By 1965, Che was disillusioned with Soviet communism and frustrated by bureaucracy in Cuba. He vanished from public life, reappearing in Africa to support a failed rebellion in the Congo. Undeterred, he set his sights on Bolivia, hoping to ignite a continent-wide revolution. Disguised, he entered Bolivia with a small band, but found no local support and was isolated from allies. The Bolivian Communist Party refused to help, and the peasants were wary. Hunted by the Bolivian army and CIA, Che's group was relentlessly pursued. For 11 months, they struggled in the jungle, starving and sick, hope fading. In October 1967, Che was captured after a final ambush. His Bolivian gamble had failed. The hunt for Che Guevara had reached its end. After months of tracking him through the Bolivian jungles, the Bolivian army, aided by the CIA, finally had him cornered. Captured, Che was taken to a small, dilapidated schoolhouse in the remote village of La Higuera. This humble building would become his prison, and ultimately, his place of execution. The world held its breath, unaware of the events about to unfold within those walls. He was interrogated, questioned relentlessly about his plans, his contacts, and his motivations. But Che remained unbroken, his spirit unyielding even in the face of death. His silence spoke volumes, a testament to his unwavering commitment to his ideals. Interrogated, but unbroken. The Bolivian government, heavily influenced, and with the backing of the United States, saw Che as a dangerous threat to their stability and to the established order in Latin America. They feared his ability to inspire revolution. They made a swift and decisive decision. They ordered his immediate execution. They hoped to avoid a prolonged political spectacle that could further galvanize his supporters and ignite further unrest. Ordered his immediate execution to avoid a political spectacle. On October 9, 1967, the order was given. The world was about to lose a man, but gain a legend. On October 9, 1967, Che, aware of his impending fate, faced his executioner with unwavering defiance. There was no fear in his eyes, only a burning conviction. Che faced his executioner with defiance. His last words, spoken with unwavering resolve, echoed through the small schoolhouse. "Shoot, coward. You are only going to kill a man." His death was quickly publicized, with haunting photos of his lifeless body circulated around the world. His death was publicized with haunting photos. These images were intended to serve as proof of his defeat, a warning to any who dared to follow in his footsteps. Intended to prove his defeat, but the effect was the opposite. Instead of crushing his image, they inadvertently transformed him into a martyr, a symbol of resistance against oppression. But instead, transforming him into a martyr, the image of his lifeless body, with its striking resemblance to depictions of Christ, echoed religious iconography, further solidifying his status as a martyr in the eyes of many. The image of his lifeless body echoed religious iconography. This fueled the myth, transforming Che Guevara from a revolutionary into an almost mythical figure, fueling the myth. Secretly buried in an unmarked grave, his body was hidden away in an attempt to erase him from history. Secretly buried, the hope was that his body would be forgotten, his memory fading with time. His body was meant to be forgotten, but the legend only grew stronger, fueled by the secrecy surrounding his death and the enduring power of his ideals. But the legend only grew. Che's death, ironically, cemented his status in history. Che's death cemented his status. He became an enduring symbol of eternal rebellion, a beacon of hope for those fighting against injustice and oppression. As a symbol of eternal rebellion, forever young in the collective memory, forever defiant in the face of adversity, forever young, forever defiant. In killing the man, the revolutionary, the individual named Ernesto Guevara, in killing the man, they inadvertently created an immortal icon, a legend that continues to inspire generations. Decades after his death, Che Guevara's legacy remains fiercely contested. To some, he's the ultimate symbol of revolutionary purity and sacrifice. To others, the face of tyranny and repression. His image is a global shorthand for rebellion, but also a brand stripped of its complex reality. For admirers, he's a martyr for justice. For critics, an architect of oppression. The commercialization of his image raises questions about how we consume history, preferring myth over truth. Che's life forces us to confront the moral ambiguities of revolution. Can a liberator also be an oppressor? His story endures as a mirror, reflecting our own beliefs about justice, sacrifice, and the price of change. Hasta la victoria siempre, until victory always.